This is Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever. 16 songs, 56 minutes long. Her sophomore record since the absolute like bombshell of When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go that was released in 2019. That sort of forced people
Just
on a mainstream
rocketed.
level to
Yep.
rocketed her success, forced people on a mainstream level to rethink of what the sound of pop could be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really gave Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas like major chops in production, all those different things.
Oh, yes.
Um, Launched Billie Eilish's career in a lot of great ways, and a lot of ways that definitely were like detrimental for her personally. That she goes into this record. This record is a
Yep.
marking
Very
of her.
introspective.
Yeah, it's very introspective. It's a marking of her growth as a person, her sort
Mm-hmm.
of maturity as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and some experiences that are just specifically related to her and her stardom. Some experiences that are definitely universal, not just I'm sure to like young women, but just like people broadly speaking. Um, all that with your still characteristic unique blend of different genres and sounds, kind of a glitchy electronic kind of background. It's taken a little bit more of a background than in the previous record for sure, but
Yes.
still definitely there, providing a little bit of color, a little bit of theme, almost a signature for the production here.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, you we talk a lot about artists having a really hard time getting that through that like sophomore slump of a record, right?
Yes.
That's not at all the problem here. Got no qualms about that here. This is a really really good
Nope.
record, really great job. And Sean, I've done so much talking. Let's start pouring into
So
this.
it starts off with getting older, which is a really like very soft track where it's just very minimal music in the background, and it's just Billy going over kind of talking about like what happens when you become a star, this or that, all this stuff that has happened in the past couple of years with her, and then like taking a toll on herself and everything, and saying, hey, it's like it almost feels like a drag doing music right now because of everything that's been going on in my life and all of this. It's not as easy as it looks, not as easy as it sounds and whatnot. People who are in that position don't really understand it and everything. And it's kind of a good opening to get into this album to see, okay, it's going to be very introspective. It's going to be more about kind of what's going on with her and herself personally and all these other things that have gone on. But it's kind of a good little opening track. And then right after that, you have I Didn't Change My Number, which then kind of gets back into that like tried and true Billie Eilish sound of that like that really nice like production for Phineas and everything, that kind of
Yeah.
modern,
See,
almost like a neo pop ish, but blend with a little bit of glitch pop and other stuff in here. Very, very good track. I like it as a second track. It's perfect for it. I also want like side note, the pacing of the album is very good as well because within this it's a lot of softer stuff, a lot more experimentation with her voice in general too. There's a couple tracks where she really lets out her vocals and everything, which she is a little self conscious on and this or that. But within the album, it's paced brilliantly because it goes from kind of a little bit soft at the beginning, and then you'll throw in these other tracks and stuff that pick it back up, and then you get back into those more introspective things. But it still keeps it pretty consistent throughout it, so you're never left wanting more. You're never left wanting less. Does that make sense?
yeah. On to the pacing of the album, like you get to Billy Bossa Nova, which is really all you need to know about the song. It's just like Billie Eilish doing a sort of bossa nova kind of beat and
Yep,
sound to it. It works really nice. It flows smoothly
it's
between the
great.
two songs. Didn't Change My Number in My Future, which
Yep.
was the lead single that we kind of listened to off of this. We also kind of there's a middle track in here that's mostly spoken word, not my responsibility, which we talked about very very long time ago because it was released a little bit after first album, but like pretty far before my future, right?
Yep.
But yeah, you have that, and it was like again, just a really nice song. Showed a lot of different range, instrumentation there, just really beautiful, shimmering. It's just really a next level step up right there.
Hmm.
Then you get into Oxytocin, which of the new songs that have come out, is just like one of my favorite. You get like this is the first really
God,
branch out of Billy
gorgeous
going in.
song.
Yeah,
Love that song so much. That's one of those where I'm glad that I didn't get like this is one of those things where I'm glad you get like a whole album release where I really the only song I really knew going into this quite well is Therefore I Am, which is the second to last track. Everything else I don't really I went into this blind, and I'm really glad that track was saved for me because my God, it is a good
yeah.
absolutely.
It's a little bit of a sort of dancier track. Again, like a lot of Billie Eilish songs on here, it's sort of her coming into womanhood. So you get kind of like a sultry, seductive kind of vibe. Whereas in the first album, you got kind of someone who's a teenager going through their emotions, someone kind of being a little bit chaotic for fun, but also like really going through themselves and like through their stuff, right? This is kind of, you still get that chaotic energy, but then it's directed towards more of like a sensual, seductive kind of thing. And it goes
Hmm.
really well with the energy. It's very like dancey, it's very club like. It's like, yeah, it's just really, really good in that sense. Um,
Hmm.
Absolute banger.
Absolute banner. After that, you have Goldwing, which is interesting, and which is basically just like this chorus of her vocals and everything. Almost sounds like like you're in a church or something within the way it wraps around your head and everything.
Yeah, the
For really good
sense.
with the pacing with it, because again, if you like keep putting like these other tracks right after, if you put more experiments with this or that, it can get a little deranged, and it might not, that song might not pop out as much as it would if it's the way it is naturally.
Yeah, the sense in Goldwing kind of like do the background thing you're describing, where
Yeah.
it sort of describes that like sort of church choir effect. And then you get into like Lost Cause, Halley's Comet, which get into the slower kind of tone of things, where Billie Eilish is being very introspective to herself, and some really beautiful tracks here. Like we said, Not My Responsibility is this mostly spoken word version of how
Really like it. Yeah.
she's being perceived by other people. She can't be perceived by like the public. She can't really win either way. If she
Mhm.
shows none of her body, like one of the quotes, kind of paraphrasing it, is if she shows none of her body, then she's not like womanly enough. If she shows too much skin, she's a slut. And so it's like there's just no
Exactly.
winning either way, because we've seen Billie Eilish in both of these phases now, and both of those things have exactly happened.
This has been exactly
And
said. Yep.
Not My Responsibility was written before the rollout of Happier Than Ever, which is before Steven Crowder had this whole like interesting public male moment in between Not Debating Sam Cedar, where he was freaking out over the dress of a 19-year-old Billie Eilish. Like
Yeah. Yep.
it's
It's great.
just it's just ridiculous here.
Yeah.
But to get back to the record, after Not My Responsibility, it kind of like marks this curve point where you go back into something that's kind of somber, slower, but still kind of experimental with Overheated.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just like a smooth lo-fi kind of groove. When it sounds very much like a successor to If We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? But
Yeah.
it fits very much in this album. It doesn't feel like it's treading old ground. It's absolutely an evolution in that sense.
And that's
It's
this
a
whole
really good
album
evolution.
is this whole album is the evolution of her sound and everything as well. It's not stagnant. She's trying different things. She's experimenting a lot still, but then still keeping true to herself as an artist, which is what we always want to see on Audioface.
Yeah.
Especially, and it's something to give her props on, because a sophomore album is very difficult to do. It's really hard, especially if you have a
Hmm.
very breakout album. Like in paraphrasing Robin Pecknold like a few weeks ago, it was like the anniversary of Helpless as Blues, Fleet Fox's second album, and he's like, "Love this album, but thank God I never have to make a second album ever again." Because it's just the stresses and everything that goes on to you as an artist of trying to like make better whatever that debut record is, especially if it's a very commercially successful album. You're put under a lot of stress from the label, from the media, from yourself, from your peers, and all of that. And to do something that is this good, yeah, hats off.
Worth noting that she did it well by taking her time and not trying to rush
Exactly.
it out, by trying to
Exactly.
rethink, okay, how can I revolve myself? How can I grow as a person and write some more songs about like that new experience, right? Um,
She just did it very organically. It was just kind of doing stuff that felt that would resonate within herself and everything too, which I like, instead of really trying to just manufacture something.
yeah, we said this when We All Fall Asleep came out, that Billie Eilish is like a young woman in pop who, in a lot of different ways, she bucks the trends of like young women in pop that hopefully we see more of. But in one way, it's just like she has a really good head on her shoulders, both like with music and with how she wants to be herself and grow up and make sure she doesn't fall into a lot of the typical pitfalls that
Yep.
people in different generations of hers have fallen into. Like, I hopefully don't think we're going to be seeing like a documentary like in a Britney Spears kind of format about Billie Eilish 20 years from now, just because, like, not, no offense on Britney Spears, no knock on Britney Spears, but like there are lessons to be learned from that era of like,
Yep.
how you are as a person. Like, that's just like, not again, not to single her out, but like there's a bunch of artists who didn't quite like have that smart path with things, and Billie Eilish is
Mhm.
never going to be that artist just based on what she's the right head she's got on her shoulders. Honestly, just she's really
Yep.
smart. She's got the right morals about her, and yeah, she's very aware of that and stuff. And you get this again through these songs very clearly. Um, I think just of note, I'll note that NDA is a really funny song. Again, like it's introspective of her life. Not many people can relate to it, but it's like having just
Yes,
regular
baby.
relationships, talking to people, but like having to keep an NDA because like just interacting with people, you don't want too many things about your personal life getting out because
Which is crazy. That's one thing that exactly you if you're not as a big star or something, you don't have to think about that. You can just have random interactions with people. But if you're a really big star or whatnot, then all these other things of your personal life or whatever can get out. So you always have these NDAs and stuff of different
yeah,
stuff.
for
Like look,
friends you're meeting, your
if you ever watch
dates,
like
yeah,
if you ever watch Succession, it's like that where it's like here's an NDA of the bet that you randomly heard. You can't talk about this.
yeah,
This
from the first
stuff.
episode, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, just to cover the weird stuff that people are doing, or whatever,
Mhm.
just for some peace and sanity, whatever. So yeah, overall, listen to the album. There's not much more that can be said. We can go through like all of the tracks of it, but kind of just ends really nicely. The last two tracks, Happier Than Ever and Male Fantasy, letting it end really quickly. You get to see Billie Eilish's voice on display.
Yep.
Her voice is really growing and maturing very well. There weren't really problems with her voice before, but like you can now see that
I
like
think there's
she's
a lot of
hitting.
criticisms of a lot of people were criticizing her voice and stuff, and I think that's something that she addressed in this record for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I do remember there were those criticisms, and I definitely feel they're addressed. But naysayers of Billie Eilish's vocal talent, I couldn't believe them because at least I could hear it from the beginning, and I wasn't expecting the
100%, I
first
can
record.
do.
And I feel like the second would be improved. Sign Seal delivered on that, improved, better, just what the fans who like were there on the long
Mhm.
game thought before. Phenomenal record. Like Billie Eilish is one of the greats again because this is a pop like artist, and I don't hate it at all. I look forward to the release. I'm very happy about it. She doesn't disappoint. She's smart about what she's doing. She feels like she seems to, to the extent that she can feel comfortable and confident in what she's doing. And I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy for her, and it shows really well in this like wonderful quality of music. She's the ideal like pop artist of what we want pop to be. Of like what I was complaining about pop music like as a kid of like, wow, a lot of this sucks. A lot of this is vapid and one dimensional. It can be better and more musically evocative and thoughtful. And like, yeah, Billie Eilish did it. Phenomenal job.
Yes.
Arbitrary Scale this week on Audioface. We do arbitrary scales every single week on Audioface because while normal music reviewers and publications have like an actual scale you can rate all the albums to, even though these music reviewers aren't doing the most scientific job of comparing the albums, we just give up the idea and change the rating scale every single episode.
Yeah.
This episode, because I'm running out of ideas, is Seasons of Arby and the Chief, back from the golden age of machinima and YouTube.
Oh, baby. This is how I got into YouTube. Was RB the Chief back in the day.
Yeah, Arby and the Chief was a live action machinima web series. And yeah, there's like this YouTube channel called Machinima that has a very long, storied, odd history.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it was huge back in the day.
Yeah, it was basically just if you think a Robot Chicken, but with Halo characters, and that's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm. This is a solid season one. Like it starts off from continuing the success of Master Chief Sucks at Halo to RB the Chief. It's all of the goodness of that and all of the nostalgia that I got from you making this an arbitrary scale. And the cat wants to sit on my chair, so this is going to be interesting.
That's going to be a vibe.
So we can do this live on air.
Yeah, the rest of the episode should be fairly normal and quick moving, so hopefully that's fine. Hi Mochi. I'm gonna give this season 5 because that's when this is a show, they've done a lot of seasons and things like that, but that's when they started being more creative with the writing and started taking more leaps, and not all the fans liked it, but like you started to see some like range and depth from like a random YouTube show, and it's like, oh no, they can be doing the damn thing on the internet. So I think that laid the path for Netflix to do long form dramatic content was RB and the Chief. You heard it here first. That and Homestar Runner.
Dude, Homestar. That's where it's at.
Homestar Runner ran so BoJack Horseman could like pole vault. I don't know.